welcome to another edition of On This Day in Tudor History. I'm Claire Ridgway. I'm the author of this book, On This Day in Tudor History, which of course is the inspiration for these videos. I think it was, was it 2012, I think, that I wrote this book. And I'm actually going to read an excerpt from it today for the 15th of February. Thomas Arden, a businessman and the inspiration for the 1592 Elizabethan play The Tragedie of Arden of Feversham and Blackwill, not a very exciting title, was murdered on this day in 1551. He was murdered by his wife Alice, her lover Thomas Morsby, and other conspirators after a series of botched attempts. Raphael Holinshed, who is a famous Tudor chronicler, gives an account of the murder in his chronicle, recording the various attempts on Arden's life. The attempts included an attempted poisoning. A man known as Blackwill was meant to accost Arden at St. Paul's churchyard, but couldn't because there were too many people there. Blackwill was meant to gain entry to Arden's house by the back door, which was meant to be left open by the servant, but he locked it again for fear that Blackwill would murder him too. Then there was a plot for Blackwill to attack Arden at Rainham Down, but Arden was not alone on his journey. Then another plan, a plan for Blackwill to lie in wait for Arden in Broom Close between Feversham and the ferry, but Blackwill waited in the wrong place. There was an attempt to bait Arden and cause a fight, but Arden wouldn't fight. And then we have the final successful attempt when Blackwill hid in Arden's house. He strangled Arden with a towel. Morsby struck him with a pressing iron of 14 pounds weight. Blackwill slashed him on his face, and then Mrs. Arden, with a knife, gave him 7 or 8 pricks into the breast. So they were determined, obviously, to make sure that that attempt was definitely successful. Strangling him with a towel, striking him with a heavy weight, slashing him, and then stabbing him 7 or 8 times seems to have done the trick. Now, Alice Arden, Mrs. Arden, was burnt to death in Canterbury. Morsby and his sister were hanged at Smithfield. One servant was burned and another was hanged, drawn and quartered, all punishments for their crime. A man Alice accused of procuring Blackwill was hanged in chains at Canterbury. Another man was hanged at Feversham, and Blackwill, who had fled to Flanders, was burnt to death at Flushing in 1553. So everyone that had been involved in this plot to kill Thomas Arden certainly got their comeuppance. But I included that in my book. It's a bit obscure, but I included it in my book because it just made me chuckle. I know it's not a nice thing, a man getting murdered, but it's just the story of how many attempts and what went wrong. I just find it funny. I've got a bit of a warped sense of humour. So that's what happened on this day in Tudor history in 1551. Thomas Arden, after many attempts on his life, was finally murdered. I'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget you can subscribe by clicking on the button, and you can click on the bell as well for notifications. Bye.